Want to see the most over-engineered dive watches on the market? Well, today's your lucky day. Let's get into it. Yes, and welcome to the Mad Watch Collector Show. Now, it's been far too long since I talked about this brand, but today it's all about Sinn. Yeah. If you want an amazingly over-engineered watch that basically epitomizes German engineering, this is your brand. But a watch I fixated and obsessed about right from the start when it was released in 2020 was the U50. A brutalistic, modernized dive watch that, to be fair, I don't think can be beaten. The dive watches are made from German U-boat steel. I just had to have one of these watches. Now, if you've watched the show long enough, you will know that I love a bit of history in watches. I like to see a watch that has a vintage vibe to it. Well, a U50 is far from vintage, and it's probably the reason why it's still not in the collection. Now, since my purchase almost 3 years ago, the U50 lineup has exploded. And not only have I got a regular one to show you today, I've also got two new ones that are gonna blow your socks off too. But the big question is, which one do I like the most, and which one does the wife like the most? Now, this show could not have been done without today's sponsor, Francis & Gay. Yeah, we've been top pals for over 3 years now. If you don't know about them now, get on the blooming website in the description below. They're an authorized dealer of all the brands you and I love, and it's well worth a look. And for all those that are interested in buying a Sinn soon, you need to watch the end of this show because there may be a little special offer for you. Are you Sinn ready? Let's go. So, the first watch I've got for you is the U50, the original bad boy. The one my wife called the Lego watch, which, if you look at the handset, she's got a point. But holding this in my hands, it just makes me regret the one I sold. It is an awesome watch. It has its own character. You know, there is nothing else like this. The second watch I have is the U50 Hydro. Now, this is a reference that came out, I think, at the start of this year. It was eagerly anticipated from the Sinnaholics. It's got a U50 case, but that's where the similarities finish. As you can see, the seconds hand is ticking. This is a U50 that has a quartz module for a good reason. The clarity on this dial, and all Sinns to be fair are fantastic, but this one is rather special. We'll talk about in a minute. Does feel a little bit heavier than the regular U50, and the dial looks darker for a good reason we'll talk about later. The third watch I have is the T50, and this is basically a U50 but in grade 5 titanium, and it's already making me a little bit antsy. It's way too light. Oh, I still can't get on with titanium watches. And I understand it's a phenomenal material for sports watches in general because it's not going to feel heavy on the wrist. Titanium does have a very dark look to it, even darker than the tegimented steel. This T50 has been stripped of all colour, and there are certain characteristics of this watch that makes it its own thing. It does look cool. So there's the three watches: U50 regular, U50 Hydro, T50. Yeah. Now, all these watches have a bead blasted finish to them, which I love when it comes to sports watches. You're hardly ever going to see a scratch on them. I love the fact that we've got drilled lugs. That's a tooly look. Quick spec checks. So even though these three watches look a little similar and look very alike, there's one dimension that's slightly different. All three are 41mm in diameter, as well as 47mm lug to lug. That and the 20mm lug width is why I bought the U50. Absolutely wears like a dream. And another reason why I bought the regular one, it's only 11.2mm thick. For a 500-meter diver, that is insane. The titanium is 12.3mm thick. And you can see that the bezel is slightly higher raised because of that spring-loaded mechanism. Also, it's the only Sinn I've ever seen that has a domed sapphire crystal. The others have a straight flat one. The Hydro is a little thinner at 11.8 millimeters. All three watches have anti-reflective coating on the inside and outside of the crystal, which is why they're so darn legible. All three watches have a screw down crown at 4 o'clock, so you don't end up digging your wrist into the crown if it was at 3 o'clock. We have a solid utilitarian, is that a word? Screw down case back on both the U50 and the T50. Almost looks like a door hatch of a submarine. Both these watches have an over-engineered water resistance of 500 bloomin' meters, which is absolutely crazy considering how thin these are. Now with the titanium case, we have a little knob at the bottom of the lug here, which is an AR dehumidifying type of technology. Now all the oxygen and air has been sucked out of this watch and replaced with a gas that is thinner, but what that means is this watch is never going to fog on the inside of that crystal. Never! Again, over-engineering, but cool. Something you only get with this titanium version. But talking about very cool, let's look at the Hydro, shall we? Because something has been done to this watch to make this 5,000 meters of water resistance. That's a bit much. Yes, but Sinn do this. Now, if you take a good look at the dial, something crazy is happening here. The watch has been oil filled. And what this does is increase the water resistance to basically just completely watertight at all times. But what else it does, it gives this unlimited viewing angle of the dial. And even though we do have a big sunken chapter ring on the Hydro, like the other two, the dial almost looks flat, almost like a digital screen. And another offshoot of the oil filling, the dial looks darker and everything looks more legible. Now on the case back of this, we have a little middle part which is kind of like a diaphragm, which expands and despands depending on temperature and pressure. This watch is an absolute beast. Now both the Hydro and the regular U50 have a tegimented bezel. It's Sinn's own proprietary hardening coating on top of the U-boat steel. Literally will take a scraping up a brick wall without doing any damage. The SDR in the title of the Hydro just basically means black bezel, but it's been tegimented just the same as this regular one. 60 clicks, unidirectional. It ratchets and twists like it looks. It's basically tough as nuts. A definite click to it, you know? Not massively satisfying, but it really does the job. For me, I'd say that this Hydro has a better click, more definite, and because of that black coating, I feel like I get a better grip. Absolutely no backplay whatsoever. Slightly different story with the titanium. It works a bit differently. Instead of twisting it right from the start, you have to press the bezel in. It feels like it's spring-loaded. Push it in, then you twist. Again, 60 clicks, let go, and you're there. And you can't move it unless you push it down, which is probably why the bezel isn't as grippy as the other two, because it's more of a push down force than a twisty force.
Getting technical there, aren't I?
But like most titanium watches, it suffers from being a little bit light for me. I'm not getting any backplay, but it's not overly fun. Not that bezel should be fun, but still. I like the pushing down of the bezel. Very nice. Another over-engineering feature of these watches is that the bezels are captive. Not held hostage, but they are screwed into a ridge in the case, which means this can't accidentally pop off. I've never had one accidentally come off. You didn't have to do this, Sinn, but you did.
Could you just click that like button, please? It really helps the channel. Thank you.
Okay, let's look at the faces.
Dials time.
And we've got to look at the original first, because this is why I fell in love with the U50. Tudor's got their Snowflake handset. Rolex have got their Mercedes handset. Sinn has got their Lego handset. And if you can't see this dial in the dark, you are certifiably blind, my friend. I love the red colour at the start of these hands. I also love the seconds hand with the square lollipop. Like every Sinn here, we have a matte black dial, printed indices, printed logos. There is nothing elegant about Sinn dials, but when it comes to design, it's perfect. Now, if we look at the T50, the color has been stripped away from the bezel and the dial. The indices aren't as chubby, and the handset has been changed to this sword style. Even though I do like it, I still prefer the regular U50's hands. There will be a lot of you out there though that will prefer the sword style, but it makes me think more of a pilot Sinn than a diver Sinn. And if you're not a fan of the Lego style handset, but you still like a bit of colour, well, this is where the Hydro comes in. We've still got colour on the bezel, and we've got colour on the dial, thanks to that seconds hand that reminds me of a barrier that goes up and down when a train comes through. And I've got to admit, I do love that printed Hydro logo. That looks cool, doesn't it? Now, you guys know I'm not a fan of a date window, but Sinn do it so subtly that you really don't realise it's there unless you're actually looking for the date. And with the Hydro version, you can't even see the window. It's basically just the number, which is cool. If I was to pick one of the three though, it would still be that original one, team. What about you? When it comes to glowing in the dark, well, I think the winner still has to be the regular U50. It's chunky. There's a lot more lume on it. The T50 does do a good job, and it shows off a couple of colours of lume. There's BGW9 there as well as C3. On the Hydro, because of the oil, it doesn't feel or seem as bright as the other two. It's a trade-off, I guess. It still glows like a good one. So with the T50 and the regular U50, the watch is powered by a Swiss Sellita SW300-1. Top grade! And even though it is not COSC certified, these watches today are running at about 3 to 4 seconds fast, which is well under the parameters of COSC certified, 28,800 beats per hour. They hack and they hand wind. In the Hydro, we do have a Swiss caliber quartz movement. The battery, so Sinn say, is gonna last you about 5 to 10 years. However, there's a little problem with the oil-filled watches. If you ever want to service or get this battery changed, it has to be done in Frankfurt back at Sinn's HQ. The other two watches you'll be able to get serviced or fixed with any competent watchmaker around. But the battery life is long enough to not make me worried. Servicing at Sinn is around 180 to 200 pounds, including postage. I don't think that's bad for the cost of this watch.
Hello.
On my 6.5-inch wrist, and these watches look beautiful, don't they? I never had my U50 on the bracelet. I had it on a silicone strap that I had to cut to my size. Oh, I've got to admit, it does look cool. It looks smaller. The silicone strap did make the watch look a little bit bigger. I'm starting to regret a lot about selling that U50. Now, when it comes to the Hydro, the watch feels a little bit bigger. Because the dial doesn't have much depth to it, it makes the dial look bigger. However, look at that legibility. I am pretty much flat on the wrist and I can see the time. That is incredible. When it comes to the titanium, well, it's light. It does feel nice on the wrist, I have to admit. Obviously, I haven't got this sized, but it almost feels like I'm not even wearing a watch. Some of you might love that. I'm still trying to process that in my brain and it's not working. When I look at the watch, I definitely feel like I'm missing those red touches on the dial and on the bezel. I think I like the look of the grip better on the original than I do this T50, but I can definitely see the appeal of titanium. So there you go, 3 stupendous Sinns. Now to the price. Now, yes, people, you're probably aware of it, but these are not cheap watches. And hopefully over the last 10 minutes, you can see why. Now, the regular U50 with the tegimented bezel only is £2,400. The T50 that is completely made out of grade 5 titanium is £3,320. Remember, you have that over-engineered spring-loaded bezel, that dehumidifying technology that's been done to the inside of the watch. When it comes to the Hydro, well, that's going to cost you £2,445. I believe you can get this watch fully tegimented. That's up up to you. When I bought my Sinn, I wanted the case as well as the bezel having that hardened coating on it because that's what Sinn is known for. I like the fact that Sinn gives you that option to have tegimented, not tegimented. Either way, you're getting U-boat submarine steel. But out of these three watches, which one do I prefer? I have to admit it's the original. With the Hydro at a close second. I fell in love with this watch because of the dial, and to have it changed just isn't a U50 for me. What this show has done today, basically given me a slap round the face. Why did you sell it? I feel like I need a Sinn in my life again. A potential rebuy? Wonder how the wife will feel. So here we are, my wife's views on all three beautiful Sinn divers. First of all, the regular U50. Oh great, the Lego watch is back. I thought you sold it. Don't tell me you rebought it. And now the T50. This is horribly light. Feels like a kid's watch. Hate it. All the colour has gone. There's no fun left in this. The soul has been taken away. And now the Hydro. If I look at this dial for too long, it makes me go dizzy. Get it away. Comprehensive from the wife. I didn't quite get what her favourite one was of the three. I think it was the original, which was surprising as she hates the Lego watch. But moving on. Now for something for you guys. You've made it this far in the episode, you deserve a treat. To all those that are interested in buying Sinn watches, if you type this code in the Francis and Gay website at checkout, you will receive a special discount. And with the prices of these watches, the discount is significant. To the point where you shouldn't be getting your Sinn anywhere else. F&G can only offer this to UK only residents. Sorry! Also, if you like something on the website but it says out of stock, get in contact with Ryan and he can order one in. If you're about to buy a Sinn and you're in the UK, you should only get it from F&G. This code here still works. They said it was only going to be for 30 days, but if you type this in, Hamilton Watches, you get discount as well. Thank you to everyone that has watched till the end of this show. If you want a bit more of the Mad Watch Collector, click there and join. But if I've got you for a few more minutes, why don't you click this? This is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Yeah. Go on, click it. You'll love it. You'll love it. Go on. I'm waiting. Go on. Click it.